Resistance to antibiotics could cause 10 million deaths a year from 2050. That's according to the United Nations. Scientists say climate change is another factor driving the looming crisis. Why is there such a risk? And what's being done about it? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Sahil Rahman. The United Nations and scientists worldwide are warning that unless urgent action is taken to deal with resistance to antibiotics, a crisis much bigger than the COVID-19 pandemic could occur by 2050. The UN estimates as many as 10 million people could die every year from what's known as antimicrobial resistance, or AMR. That's many more deaths in just 1 year than the 7 million lives lost during the pandemic. So why is this happening and what can be done to address it? We'll discuss that in detail with our guest shortly. But first, let's take a quick look at the problem. A recent report by the UN Development Programme says a major driver is climate change, fueling the rise of global antimicrobial resistance. This happens when bacteria, viruses, fungi or other parasites develop the ability to resist drugs designed to kill them. Disease-causing bacteria and other microbes have historically been limited by geography, and cooler temperatures have prevented diseases from spreading extensively. But climate change is disrupting these barriers. A warmer planet is bringing in more diseases. Floods and droughts are disrupting water systems and sanitation facilities, creating breeding grounds for microbes. Health experts say a critical way to stop these superbugs is to curb the overuse and misuse of antibiotics. Measures to halt climate change will also help in the battle against antimicrobial resistance. In Beirut, Anna Farra, an infectious diseases specialist for Doctors Without Borders, and recently co-wrote a piece addressing the development and spread of antibiotic-resistant bacteria in Gaza. Anna, let me just bring you in quickly because obviously you and your colleagues at Doctors Without Borders, also known as MSF, do work all over the world, not just in conflict zones, but in climate disaster areas. Obviously, you know, these scenarios occur when the infrastructure of those areas collapses. How is it presenting in general to your colleagues who are noticing this, you might say, at the forefront of medical care?
So we're noticing it in as our first speaker said, these bugs know no boundaries. And even in places where we were not expecting to see a lot of resistance, we are seeing it even there, where we were assuming that not a lot of antimicrobials would be used. And this changes a bit, makes us change the ways we need to treat patients, and maybe we need to prepare in another way in all emergencies.
I mean, what we are seeing certainly in conflict zones, and if we just come to something like Gaza, just as one incident, one story, is that when you have the infrastructure of a location destroyed and you have the water supply disrupted, this all exacerbates the problem of spreading disease. And you might say disease metamorphosing or changing into new forms that are very difficult to treat. How much of a problem is it to have medical locations destroyed, be it in a conflict zone or by natural disaster, and then trying to rebuild them quickly so the disease doesn't spread and these sorts of microbes don't become prevalent?
So in conflict zones, you have the destruction of the medical infrastructure, meaning that people can seek healthcare or not able to get the healthcare or the medication or whatever. So that's this part, you don't get treated in the right way or get the necessary treatment. Then there's the second part, which is the regular all around you infrastructure, the water, you don't get water properly, maybe your house is destroyed, maybe, where you live is destroyed, you have to move, you have to go somewhere else, your living conditions change, so the diseases can spread, so things like cholera with water or other diseases can spread. These could or could not be resistant, but even if you're sick, you become more prone to get other resistance. You increase the use of antimicrobials if it's available, but also you become more prone to getting disease because of stress, because of your food, water, you can't wash yourself, hygiene. So all these factors play in.
Yes, it's all very well, isn't it, at the government level for this to be made aware. But at the end of the day, you're at the grassroots level, at the coalface to a certain extent. How do you get your voice heard? And how do you get the voices of your doctors and medics heard when you have these incidents occur, these bacteria arising on the scene that need to be made aware of to the wider medical circle?
I think this is the point, making the world aware. And I would like to go back to the diagnostics part that both of my co-speakers talked about. Diagnostics is key. To know that if we talk about bacteria, you need to know that you have a bacteria first, and then you need to know that it's resistance. And where we work, I can say that only in the areas we work, we usually use the diagnostics. We try to use a local diagnostic, a local lab. And only it's less than 40% of the places where we work, where we actually can find a lab that has a good quality enough that we can work with. So in 60% of the time, we have to come with our own and build our microbiology lab. And knowing your problem is where it starts. And a lot of places, we don't know what the problem is. So we have tools that we've tried to make the diagnostics lighter. So we have like the tools that we have to make it easier for people. So there's a part of capacity building. There's a part of consumables. There's the infrastructure for it. So we've tried to make it a little bit easier. So we have something called the mini lab. We have the Antibiogo app, and you can use your smartphone to be able to interpret these sensitivities easier. So I would like to make a call for that.
Yeah, but time is your enemy, isn't it, really, to a certain extent, to try and get that voice heard and get those findings actually out there to those people that can make the difference. Anna, we're coming to the end of the programme. I'd like to give you the final say, being at the forefront of looking after people who have this problem and you're facing it, and so are your colleagues. What would your appeal be to the movers and the shakers who can really make the decisions as to how to, you might say, stop AMRs actually even occurring in common society when there are conflict zones or climate change has affected a community?
I think we need to go back to basics. Like Mukesh said, prevention is key, and to have accessibility to proper living condition, hygiene, etc. The basics. Prevention, vaccination, clean water. These are prerequisites for preventing antimicrobial resistance. We need to think of antimicrobial resistance not as a vertical thing. It really needs to be integrated in everything you do. A little bit like when you're thinking of climate change. We need to think about it in every gesture we do every day.
Yeah.
It needs to be the same.
Well, let's hope it can be in some shape or form. But for the moment, we have to leave it there. We have come to the end of our programme. I'd like to thank all of my guests, Mukesh Kapila, Anna Farra and Alistair Farley. And thank you as well for watching. You can see the programme again anytime by visiting our website at aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on X. Our handle there is at AJ Inside Story. From me, Sahil Rahman, and all of the team here, thanks for your time and your company.